So I remember when I was 4 years old and I was playing with a few friends of mine, very, very little. And for a second I just stepped aside and I looked at who they were, I looked at who I was, and I wondered, what am I doing here? Very young age to have these feelings. But then when I was 12 years old, I was sitting on my bed with a fractured foot. And I was thinking to myself, is this the life that I'm supposed to be living? When I turned 17, I was very happy to go to the US for further studies. So here I am at the airport, just about to board. And for a second, I stand there and I think to myself, is this the path that I'm supposed to follow? Am I following that path? At the age of 25, picture this. I'm sitting on top of the tallest tower in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm having these thoughts. What if I was supposed to be somewhere else? See, that couldn't have been possible, because who doesn't want to be a young professional running a $100 million project for a company that's over $6 billion in revenue? But the day I left that, went back to the US to do something bigger, I had the same thoughts. Finally, at the age of 29, when I decided to give up 13 years of an illustrious career, a handsome salary, after having worked for some of the biggest companies in the planet, to return back to India, a country I had never worked in before, to start a business, something I had no knowledge about, I remember thinking to myself, am I making the biggest mistake of my life? But you see, our thoughts, our pride, our ambitions, the risks that we take or we don't take, the comfort zones that we get used to, the expectations that people have from us, the dreams that we build up for ourselves, all of this creates suspicion and doubt in our minds. And then it takes us to a place of fear and insecurity and a lack of self-belief. But you will come back and say, Miss Sherina, you are the founder of Sun Strategic. It's a fairly new startup, one of the top agencies of Mumbai, and it will probably become one of the top service providers of India. Why do you suffer from this now? Does anyone in the audience remember the first time you felt unsure of yourself? You can just raise your hands. First time you felt unsure, the first memory ever. And I was sitting the other day and thinking, was it when I was 4 years old? Or was it when a face reader told me, don't leave India and don't go, you belong here? Or was it when like a tarot card reader said, don't accept any marriage proposals before you're 35? I mean, I remember sitting and thinking to myself, what is she smoking? I mean, I'm Indian. By 35, I should be having 3 children, right? The first time I felt really, really unsure of myself. Like I didn't know what to do, I didn't know who to go to, was when I was a sophomore in one of the topmost universities in the US. Sophomore is your second year in college. And I'm sitting there thinking whether I should leave this university and go to a smaller university so I can live more comfortably, obviously, because it's going to be more, it's going to be cheaper to live there, and I could even study what I really wanted to study. So there I am, picture this, I'm sitting in front of the computer in the computer library, and I'm really looking up my horoscope, because I'm praying to the gods of the internet that, dear internet, just tell me something or show me something that will give me the answer to whether or not I should take this decision. The next time I felt very unsure of myself was a few years later. And you'll wonder why it took me a few years later to become really unsure again. Well, because when you're taking 22 credits every semester and you have 3 part-time jobs and you win the Student of the Year award, and I'm not talking about the Karan Johar types, you really have no time to think. It is simply just a time to do. But feeling unsure of yourself and feeling uncertain and feeling at a loss and not knowing what to do, this is going to be constant. It doesn't matter if you have a set of really motivating parents who will support you through anything, or if you have younger sisters who really look up to you, but frankly, they're only there to extort whatever you own materially, or if you have a set of grandparents who love you to the moon and back, back, but they're just wanting to sit there and create the wedding guest list, which is not even going to happen in the next 5 years. It doesn't really matter, because life still has a way of bringing situations where you're going to feel that the ground under your feet is completely flimsy. So I went from schools to colleges to jobs to relationships, wondering if I'm really living my destiny. Is this my destiny? Am I aligned to it? So where do I find the answers for that? I find the answers with the consultants who are in the business of destiny. So I went from astrologers to palmists to numerologists to shamans to soul healers to spiritual healers to chakra healers to yoga gurus to meditation gurus to therapists, just to find my center. Like, am I living what I'm supposed to live? Right? And I didn't stop there. How many of you have read The Secret? Yeah? So I read The Secret because I had just broken up with somebody many, many years ago. And now after reading The Secret, I was 110% sure that I'm going to manifest the next big love of my life, which I did. And boy, what a disaster that was. So speaking of disasters, just a few years ago, not too many years ago, I came to a place in my life where I was told hour after hour that I am not good enough. I was made to feel very, very alone. In fact, I had lost my will to live. I had lost my way. I had lost complete belief in my judgment. I had lost my sense of self-worth. And what did I do? I did what any normal person would have done. I went from temples to temples looking for a miracle. That didn't work. I went to churches. That didn't work. I went to astrologers who charged me $300 for 30 minutes. Then I went to spiritual healers who did nothing but chanted for me all day long. And then I went to psychologists to do something called, wait for it, past life regression, just to find an answer to why am I suffering from all of this, just to find that ray of hope that maybe my future is more certain than my present. So, self-doubt means different things to different people. For me, it was, I was lacking in confidence. I was coming from a place where I was not listening to my gut instinct. I was living in this state of confusion in my head where I couldn't see any further. I couldn't visualize my next action. I couldn't visualize the future. And I was questioning whether I'm worth anything at all or not. But you see, self-doubt is like your best friend, because it shows up almost every day, just like your best friend does. And then you're supposed to fight it, just like you fight with your best friend. But is it conquering of self-doubt that will get us closer to what our destiny is? Is it conquering of self-doubt which will get us closer to success? Or is it actually creating self-belief and a sense of self-worth that will get us closer to that? How many of you have asked the universe for signs? Oh, come on, I know more than those. Come on, right? So the rest of you are asking Google Maps for signs, right? So just imagine if in 2006, I had asked the universe, dear universe, please tell me who is my next big client that I'm about to win. And then I'm passing by a billboard that says Lehman Brothers. And then I use The Secret to manifest this Lehman Brothers. And come 2008, I'm having a very different conversation with the universe, right? So then my question is, what part of our existence is truly our destiny? Are we misaligned from our destiny because we have that sense of self-doubt, because we're unsure of ourselves from time to time? And if that is true, then how do we break the shackles of self-doubt? And how do we stop giving ourselves the concessions and the discounts that we give ourselves because we are scared to face unfamiliar situations and unfamiliar territories? So when we feel that our destiny is completely up in the air, what do you do? What do you do when you feel unsure? So I think we've gone a bit further. How many of you, show of hands, have been told, just believe in yourself, you can do it. You just have to keep believing in yourself. Just believe in yourself. You know that word just? That's really funny. It's actually really annoying because what it's telling me is that, you know what? You just have to do this and you're so stupid because you don't know how to just believe in yourself, because if you had just believed in yourself, you would have been able to fix it all. So then my next question, which is where we were, how many of you have received formal training in just believing in yourself? Gone to school, colleges, universities, tools, tips, tricks, skill set to believe in yourself? Have you received the guidance to believe in yourself? Nobody? Just as I thought. So then, my next question is, how many of you have actually practiced it 60 hours a week, week after week, month after month, year after year? So, if you haven't practiced it, how can you have it? Isn't the answer really simple? Instead of us being told when we were growing up that you have to get 99% in your boards, if we were taught how to believe in ourselves, if we were taught the skill set of how to have a sense of self-worth, you know that feeling of like, I'm going to conquer everything that I set my mind to? How the gods and goddesses used to do that? Yeah? If we were taught that, we'd be actually able to apply it in our real lives. So here are some of the stages of my life where I had to create a sense of self-belief, create my self-worth by innovating. We've all been here at some point in our life. So when I was a lazy procrastinator, I was a little unsure of myself. This was when I was 15 years old, and I was studying, I was practicing for my SAT examination. Everybody knows what SATs are, right? You get into this entrance examination to go overseas. And half the time, I was really daydreaming about being this hotshot investment banker on Wall Street in New York City. Because at 15, you're really good at daydreaming. And the other half of the time, I was under the misconception that I'm a product of the Indian education system, so my mathematics must be way better than the average American. What happened, you see, was I bombed my SATs the first time, and I literally had 15 days, or 30 days maybe, to take the SATs again. And at this time, I didn't know I needed self-belief because I was full of myself. I thought I was just going to crack it. So what did I do? I innovated without even knowing that I'm innovating, and I apologized to myself. I apologized to myself for failing myself. And then I found a friend who would believe in me and motivate me unconditionally. It was perhaps the most humbling and humiliating experience of my life. When I was the unknown face in the known company. So now I'm 20 years old. I've just finished one of the hottest internships there was in Washington, D.C. And I'm up for a job which is given to a boy, very unassuming, who didn't know what he was getting into. Why? Because the mentor and the boss that I was looking up to one day came and told me, you know what, Sherina, you cannot get this technology job. It's actually not for girls, it's for the big boys. Can you imagine how unsure a 20-year-old feels when the person you really look up to tells you this to your face? So what did I do? First of all, I walked a million miles away from his voice, and I replaced it with my own voice. And I used telepathy. So every time I would have a normal conversation with anyone, or if I went for interviews, I just kept telling myself, she's really good in technology. She's really good in technology. She is just the person you need for this technology job. You know what that did? That gave me a sense of clarity that this is exactly where I wanted to be. And not only that, I got a technology job in one of the largest technology companies in the world. And not only that, I became the chief editor of a newsletter that spoke only about technology, the current trends, and about the future, which was sent around to about 500,000 people in North America. Okay, so now I'm 24 years old. I've tasted a little bit of success, and I've become that show-off. So I'm living out of LA and New York and Melbourne, and I'm taking these lavish holidays in Europe, and I'm coming back to India and saying, look at me, I've achieved the world. You know why you become the show-off? Because a little bit of success is temporary. It's so temporary that you have this fear of losing it. And you have the fear of losing it because you don't know how to go to the next level. What is the next level? Are you even prepared for it? This is the time when self-help books really come into play. So I read a book called Sun Tzu's Art of War. Has anybody read that? Okay, so the one that I read was Sun Tzu's Art of War for Women. And what it made me realize is that I lacked a sense of self-worth. That was the first time I realized that I didn't have a healthy sense of self-worth. And what it also made me realize was that I needed to have tangible success, not temporary success. So, cut to 5 years from then, at the age of 29, I am the youngest director of the biggest HR company on the planet. I have literally no time to think. Life is coming at me fast. I'm working more than 20 hours a day. And what do I have? A big shortage of? Time. And what happens when you don't have time? You don't think. And then you have this feeling of being completely lost. So what did I do? I gave myself exactly what I didn't have. Time. And you know how much time I gave myself? 3 long minutes every day. And I started writing for those 3 minutes. What did I write? Everything and anything that came to my mind. I just started writing for a couple of months. So the first few times that I wrote, I had glorious thoughts about myself. Wow, look at what I've achieved. Look where I come from. Look where I am today. And that went into little upsets that I faced during that journey. And then that went into frustrations. And then that went into anger. And finally, there was a lot of abuse that came onto paper. I was really abusive in my language. But I didn't judge myself. I gave myself enough time to write because out of that writing came my professional calling. It was out of that 3 minutes of writing every day that I realized that I have to come back to India and start Sun Strategic. And perhaps that's why I'm standing here in front of you. So I came to India, and this is now me at the age of 31. I thought I was going to start this company. I have a failed marriage at my hands. I got into a marriage. I got out of it even more quickly. And I had a criminal case at my hands. I had no money to my name. And I didn't even have half a career. Life had done me very, very wrong. So I did spend a lot of time wondering why life did me wrong. But eventually what I did was I started looking at people who had even less than what I had. And I started helping these women that I came across at the criminal courts who came from very, very extreme backgrounds. They didn't even have a family to support them. And the more I helped them, the more I forgot about my own problems. And the more they let me help them, the more victory they achieved and the more sense of self-worth I started forming for myself. This was around the same time that I developed my spiritual calling. I read a lot of books. Devdutt Patnaik has written some very, very amazing books. And, you know, I don't know if you've read the Shiva trilogy. Has anybody read all of those books? So I found my spiritual calling. I also found my charitable calling. And I found my passion for design. And that's how I started Sun Strategic back up again. At the end of that experience, I had helped about 30 women overcome their extreme circumstances. And sense of self-worth at this point was about 1,000%. So currently, today I consider myself an entrepreneur, a motivator, a daughter, a giver, and a human being full of love. So back to where we started. Our thoughts, our pride, our ambitions, the risks we take or we don't take, the expectations that people have of us, the comfort zones that we get used to, the dreams that we build for ourselves. This is going to bring fear, insecurity, and a lack of sense of self-worth. But it is how we conquer these that will command where our destiny will go. So I want to leave you with this one thought. We have one life to live. I don't know if you believe in reincarnation or not, but as of right now, this very moment, this is the only life we have to live. And we're also blessed with the ability to innovate. God has given us an intellect, so each one of us knows how to innovate, to try and test out methods that will work for us. And then perhaps if we innovated and created a really strong sense of self-belief and sense of self-worth, maybe we can conquer more than what our destiny allows. Thank you very much.